My in-laws hosted a family night and told everyone it was a potluck. I brought my best dish. When we got there, my mother-in-law announced, "Just kidding. We hired a chef this time." My food stayed in the car. She whispered, "Didn't want to risk another incident." Family gatherings are often a blend of joy, tradition, and, occasionally, tension. In the heart of the United States, amidst the rolling hills of Pennsylvania, one such gathering took an unexpected turn. This is the story of how a simple potluck invitation unraveled into a web of deceit, hurt feelings, and a quest for redemption. It all began with a seemingly innocent group text from my mother-in-law, Margaret. "Family night this Saturday. Potluck style. Bring your favorite dish." Excited, I decided to prepare my signature lasagna, a recipe passed down from my grandmother. The week leading up to the event was filled with anticipation. I spent hours sourcing the finest ingredients, ensuring every layer of the lasagna would be perfect. My husband, Daniel, was supportive, even helping me with the shopping and preparation. Saturday arrived, and we set off to Margaret's house, lasagna in tow. Upon entering, we were greeted by the aroma of gourmet dishes and the sight of a professional chef in the kitchen. Confused, I turned to Margaret. Margaret approached me with a smirk. "Just kidding. We hired a chef this time." She leaned in and whispered, "Didn't want to risk another incident." My heart sank. What incident? I had never had any issues with my dishes before. Feeling humiliated, I left the lasagna in the car and tried to enjoy the evening. However, the underlying tension was palpable. Conversations were stilted, and I couldn't shake off the feeling of being undermined. The following day, I called Margaret to address the situation. She dismissed my concerns, stating that it was all in good fun and that I was overreacting. Frustrated, I realized that this was not just about a potluck, but about respect. Determined to reclaim my dignity, I devised a plan. The next family gathering was scheduled for Thanksgiving. I decided to host it at our home, ensuring that everyone would bring a dish, true potluck style. Invitations were sent, and I emphasized the potluck theme. On the day, our home was filled with laughter, warmth, and an array of homemade dishes. My lasagna was the centerpiece, receiving rave reviews from everyone, including Margaret. Margaret approached me. "Your lasagna is exceptional. I'm sorry for the previous incident." It was a small victory, but it meant the world to me. It wasn't just about the food. It was about being acknowledged and respected. A week after Thanksgiving, I got a message from Margaret. No call, just a text. "Glad everyone liked your lasagna. Let's not make things awkward next time. We're all family, right?" That was it. No actual apology. No mention of the whisper she dropped in my ear at her party. My stomach turned when I read it. I showed it to Daniel. He stared at the screen for a long second and just muttered, "Well, at least she said something." No, she didn't. I found out from Daniel's cousin Tina a few days later that Margaret had been talking behind my back. Again. Apparently, she told a few family members that my cooking was dangerous. Dangerous. She brought up a time from 2 years ago when someone got food poisoning after a cookout. Except that person ate shrimp from her fridge. Not mine. I was so angry my hands shook. This wasn't just a misunderstanding anymore. This was targeted. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I went to the family group chat. Since Margaret seems to have concerns about my cooking being dangerous, I'll sit out the next few events. Don't worry about my lasagna. That set it off. Cousins started asking what I meant. My brother-in-law asked Margaret directly if she'd said anything. She didn't deny it. She said, "Let's not make this dramatic. I'm just looking out for everyone's health." Excuse me? Daniel told me to just let it die, but this wasn't something I could let go of. I'd spent years biting my tongue around this woman. Daniel and I didn't go to Christmas that year. We told them we had other plans. Truth was, I just couldn't be around her. Not when she was smiling in my face and stabbing me in the back when I turned around. Margaret texted Daniel asking if I was mad. Again. No actual apology. He told her, "You know what you did. She's not crazy." I started to think this wasn't just about food. It was about control. In late January, she showed up at our door. Uninvited. Holding a casserole dish. Margaret smiled that tight smile of hers and said, "Thought I'd bring something over. I don't want us to be distant." I didn't invite her in. I stood in the doorway and asked, "Why did you say my food was dangerous?" She blinked. "Oh, I didn't mean it like that." "Yes, you did," I said, louder than I meant to. Daniel came to the door. She turned to him and said, "Your wife is being sensitive again." He said, "Mom, go home." She left. The casserole stayed on our porch until the next morning. We didn't touch it. Word spread. Some of the family quietly stopped texting me. Others reached out privately saying they were sorry about the drama. But nobody stood up to Margaret. Nobody except Daniel. He started talking less to her. Less visits. Less calls. I didn't ask him to. He just did it. But I could tell it hurt him. She was still his mom. I wasn't going to let him cut her off for me. But I wasn't going to sit at her table again, either. In March, Daniel's sister threw a baby shower. Margaret was there, of course. We went because Daniel wanted to be there for his sister. I didn't bring food. But Margaret brought it up anyway. Loudly. "I was surprised you didn't bring your famous lasagna, honey." I was ready to risk it this time. People laughed. I didn't. Her voice had that fake sweetness, but her eyes were sharp. That comment wasn't a joke. It was a jab. Daniel heard it. He took my hand and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "We didn't bring anything because the chef you hired last time didn't want competition." Silence. Then Tina laughed. A real one. Since then, the family's split in a weird way. Some still act like nothing happened. Others clearly take sides. There are whispers, tension, awkward pauses in group chats. Family events feel like walking on glass. And Margaret? She still acts like the queen of the room. Still sends passive-aggressive texts. Still drops jokes that cut deep. But I've changed. I'm not quiet anymore. This story isn't over yet. Not even close. Next time she tries something, I'll be ready. About 2 weeks after the baby shower, I got a weird message on Facebook from a woman named Rachel. She wasn't someone I knew. Her message said, "Hey, I worked a family dinner at your Emil's house last fall. I'm the chef she hired. I just wanted to let you know that she told us specifically not to serve your dish if someone brought food. She said, don't touch anything she brings. She's sensitive. Hope you're okay." I just stared at the screen. So, it wasn't just an oops moment. It wasn't some last-minute joke. She planned it. She paid a professional to ignore me and told them I was sensitive. I showed the message to Daniel, and he just sat there shaking his head. "She lied to everyone," I said. "She did," he said. "And now she's going to lie again when we confront her." I didn't want another screaming match. I didn't want more family drama in group chats. So I wrote her an email. It was long, direct, and calm. I told her everything I knew. I told her about the chef's message. I told her I was hurt. Not over the food, but over how she treated me like a joke for years. I ended it with, "I'm not asking for an apology anymore. I'm asking for space." She never replied. Instead, she started telling people I was emotionally unstable and that I was trying to turn Daniel against his own family. Classic. This next part still makes my stomach turn. Daniel's uncle called him one night and asked if he was okay. Daniel said yes. Uncle hesitated and then said Margaret had been telling people she was thinking of changing her will because Daniel's wife is making him choose sides. Daniel laughed, then said, "Good. Keep her money." It was the first time I saw him look truly done. Not angry. Not sad. Just done. "She's trying to use money to control me," he said. "She doesn't realize I already made my choice." I didn't cry then, but I wanted to. The most unexpected person reached out after that, Daniel's ex-stepdad, Henry. They hadn't talked in years, but Henry had heard the gossip through his own channels and messaged Daniel out of the blue. I always told you your mom had a manipulative streak. Glad you're seeing it now. Henry and I had only met twice before. Once at a funeral, once at a family barbecue. He'd always been nice, quiet, the kind of guy who helped stack chairs when no one else would. He said he had some stories, stuff from when Daniel was a kid. We invited him over. Let's just say, things made more sense after that visit. Henry told us that Margaret used to keep a reputation notebook. Literally. She'd write down things people said or did that she didn't like. Especially family. She called it her insurance, he said. At first, we thought he was exaggerating. Until he pulled out a photo from years ago. It was a small leather-bound notebook with tabs. Daniel stared at the picture for a long time. She used to say it was for recipes, he whispered. It wasn't. After we stopped showing up to family dinners and events, Margaret suddenly started doing what I call the fake apology tour. She sent cards. Actual cards in the mail. Hope we can move past all this. Family is everything. Let's leave the past behind. Not once did she say what she did. Not once did she acknowledge the lie about the chef. Not once did she say my name. It was all about keeping up appearances. She even invited us to Easter lunch, said she'd love for us to come and start fresh. Daniel asked her on the phone, "Did you really tell the chef not to serve her dish?" She hung up. And then came the twist nobody saw coming. Tina, Daniel's cousin, decided to do a DNA kit just for fun. She messaged us one night, saying something was off, that there was a close match on her side that didn't add up. After a few weeks of digging and quiet calls, we found out Margaret had another child. A half-sibling Daniel never knew existed. Born in the early 80s. Put up for adoption. Quietly. No one in the family had ever heard about it. Tina found the guy. His name's Greg. And he's been looking for answers. Daniel messaged Greg. They met up for coffee. I didn't go, but Daniel came home quiet and shook up. She lied to him too, he said. Greg had been told by his adoptive family that his bio mom was a young woman who made the best choice she could. But Margaret had been 26. Married. With a toddler. Daniel. Greg looked like Daniel, but taller. Same eyes. Now Margaret had a new lie to cover. And her reputation notebook wasn't going to save her. After the meeting with Greg, Daniel started talking to him more. Greg sent over a few letters he had tried mailing to Margaret years ago after doing his own research. She never responded. Never acknowledged him. She pretended I didn't exist, Greg said over lunch one day. I just want her to say it out loud. I want her to admit I'm real. That was the last straw for Daniel. She's done hurting people and pretending nothing happened. We planned a family meeting. Not a party. Not a dinner. Just a meeting. We invited everyone, cousins, aunts, uncles, even Margaret. We rented a community center room in Harrisburg and said it was a family discussion about truth and healing. Dramatic? Maybe. But it worked. Almost everyone came. Margaret walked in late, of course. Sunglasses indoors. Holding that same fake smile. But this time we had the receipts. Daniel stood up first. He held a printed photo of Greg and one of himself as a kid. This is my brother. He's been trying to find his mother for years. Our mother. People started whispering. Margaret stood there frozen. Pale. Greg stood next to Daniel and said, I don't want your money. I don't want anything. I just wanted a name. And now I want answers. Margaret didn't speak. Her hands were shaking. Then Daniel passed out the printed messages from the chef, Rachel. I had saved screenshots, the email thread, even the group chat blow-ups. Daniel spoke clearly. She didn't just lie about me or my wife. She tried to make her look crazy. She made family pick sides. She told people my wife's food was dangerous. And she tried to erase a son. Silence. Then Tina, the cousin, stood up and said, Margaret, you owe all of us the truth. Margaret opened her mouth. And then she left. No apology. No tears. Just silence and the sound of her heels walking out the door. After that day, the family changed. Some still talked to her, but things were never the same. Margaret kept her distance. She moved to Florida a few months later, supposedly to be near the beach. But we all knew it was shame. Greg stayed in town. We see him often. He's part of the family now. Tina took over organizing family dinners. Potluck style. Real potluck. No chefs. No tricks. My lasagna? Still the first thing to go. I won't lie. I made mistakes too. I let Margaret treat me like I didn't matter for too long. I bit my tongue when I should have spoken up. I thought staying silent kept the peace, but all it did was give her more power. Maybe if I had spoken up sooner, Greg would have found us earlier. Maybe if I stood up for myself from the start, she wouldn't have gotten away with so much for so long. But not anymore. Months later, a birthday card came in the mail. It was for Daniel. From Margaret. It said, "I did what I thought was best." I still believe that. I hope one day you'll understand. No signature. No love, Mom. Just that. Daniel tossed it into the trash without saying a word.